Good afternoon. This is Paranormal Investigation Stories number 9. The Haunted Yorkshire Paranornal Research Group were asked to go and investigate a haunting in a private residence in a place called Fagley, which is a suburb of Bradford. The house was a 2-bedroom semi-detached house, and in the house lived a gentleman called Brian and his daughter Caroline. Caroline was 17 at the time of the investigation. Brian had said that so often in the house he could feel like an electrical charge in the air, kind of like static electricity, and as it went past him he could hear it crack, and it had begun to scare him so much that he'd actually decided to sleep in the lounge rather than go upstairs where all the activity was. Caroline's bedroom was on the upper floor next to the bedroom Brian used to sleep in. And Caroline had said that she had seen the shadowy figure from the waist up, head and shoulders, just walking in and out through the wall. We made our way upstairs. There was Dawn, Joan, Russ and myself. We went up to the top of the stairs and I entered into Caroline's bedroom. And instantly on entering that bedroom I began to feel disorientated. It was a very strange feeling, and Dawn also said that she felt disorientated as well within that room. I sat down on the end of Caroline's bed and I kind of zoned in to the spirit world, if you like, and I began to concentrate, and I became very aware of a woman who was coming in and out through this particular wall. After a while she stopped and stared at me, and I asked her, "Who are you?" And she said her name was Mavis, and Kenyon was the last name that came into my mind, so it was a Mavis Kenyon. She said that she was in her 60s, and I asked her what she was doing there, and she said, "I belong here. This is my home." And I explained to her, "No, other people now live in this home. You need to move on." Upon saying this, I was aware of another male figure entering the room. This one was a young lad who I found out was the age of 17. His name was Andrew Dews. I spoke with Andrew, and again I asked him why he was in this particular bedroom, or in the home at all. To which he replied he had come to visit his grandma, and his grandma was Mavis. This young lad had died. It was a very, very quick death, and obviously at a very young age. He told me that he was working in one of the local textile factories and he'd been cleaning some of the machinery when a belt drive on one of the machines got hold of him, and it carried him several feet before throwing him into a wall. And the force of him hitting the wall had caused him major brain damage, and he died shortly afterwards. In fact, if I remember rightly, he died before he reached the hospital. I asked him why he hadn't moved over, And he said he hadn't moved over because he wanted to spend time with his grandma. I spoke to Mavis again and I said, Mavis, you need to move on from this house. You need to go into the light. If you see the light, go towards it. And she said, no, I am not going towards the light. I said, well, why not? She said, because if I do, I will have to face him. The him was her husband. Apparently in their married lives he had been quite an abusive man. And he'd given her quite a bad time. I explained to Mavis that that was all in the past. Everything was gone, everything was laid to rest, and she really needed to go into the light. She needed to go because family and friends would be waiting for her. After a while, Mavis agreed that she would go. I asked her, come on Mavis, just come towards the light. Feel free, don't be afraid, just walk into the light. And at this point the room went very, very calm and very quiet. And Caroline, the owner's daughter, said that when I'd been asking Mavis to leave, that she'd seen several lights in the corner of the room in the coving, which just sparkled and then vanished. And I do believe that Mavis went into the light. She was shortly followed too by her grandson Andrew. He also agreed to go into the light and away from the life in which he found himself trapped. It's as many people say that with a sudden death, the actual spirit of the person doesn't realise that they've passed on. So they still keep going about the day-to-day business. Some people can see them, some people can't, but they're there because they have no idea. Everything carries on as it was for them. There were several orbs spotted on camera, and again, the orb situation, as I said, every time is in the balance. However, some of these orbs did seem to perform, if you like, to command, which is very interesting indeed. We went downstairs, we had a break, we were looking through some of the bits on the camera, and while we'd been filming, the camera was stood still on a tripod, and shortly after the filming started we noticed that the camera was rocking, it was being moved. So whether that was a spirit person or whether it was just a cat passing by, I really can't tell you. But it moved again, the camera moved again, seemed to shake. And at this point we could hear kind of muffled, whispered voices coming from behind the camera itself. We decided to go back upstairs again, and at this point I had already arrived in Caroline's bedroom, and Dawn was coming up the stairs with Brian, and Dawn would say herself that she felt very wary at this point because the atmosphere in the house had changed, and Brian had noticed that the atmosphere had changed in the house. In the spare bedroom is where he had his computer and Caroline had hers, and they were both switched on. And at this point Brian asked us, would you like me to turn the computers off in case that's where the spirit energy is being fed from? And we heard a very, very clear voice and a loud voice which said, no, a direct order not to turn off this computer. I sat again on the end of Caroline's bed and zoned back into the spirit realm again, and I became aware of a very big man, 6'3" to 6'4" tall, very broad in the shoulders. I could feel him upon my own body. And I asked him who he was, and the name John came, and then from nowhere the name Coulson. And I asked him what he was doing there. And apparently before these houses were built, it was an old farming area with old cottages and outbuildings. And John sadly had killed his own child in infancy. Why, I don't know. And he told me that he had been hiding in that area ever since the death of the child, and that the police had eventually caught him, and he had been taken away to Leeds, which I assume was Armley, where he was tried for what he had done, and he was hung. He tried to come inside my aura. Again, he made me feel unsteady on my feet, as though he was going to push me, and I just stumbled back a little bit. And had I allowed him, I think he would have entered to communicate with the group. Whether that would have had a good outcome or not, I don't know, but I refused to let him in. And it was at this point he came right up to me with a rope with a noose on, which was self-explanatory, I suppose, whether he was threatening me or just showing me what had happened to him. I don't really know. I wasn't particularly frightened of him, if I'm honest, even though he was a huge man. He told me the year was 1860, rings a bell, or the 1860s anyway. And then he showed me something really, really strange, it was like caves and tunnels with flames of fire everywhere, which at that moment in time didn't really make a lot of sense. But then it struck me that it was showing me a vision of hell, and that he was terrified because of the religious upbringing he'd had as a child, and had been taught all through his life that he would burn in hell forever and be in damnation for any wrongdoing that he did. And to murder your own child, it must have been, you know, one of the worst crimes you could possibly commit. I spoke with him, and I said to him, John, for what you did, you paid the ultimate price. You paid by being hung. There is no more judgment for you. Everything is clear, paid for. I said, you need to go into the light. You need to go into the other side of life and meet up with other people that have passed before. He seemed very reluctant indeed. But then all of a sudden, as quickly as it come, he had gone. And again a great calm fell upon the building. We asked if there were any more spirits there and could they show themselves. And one of the camera was pointing at Caroline's bed, and there were two orbs rolled out this way towards us from the headboard. Again, which appeared to be sentient energy rather than any other dust particles or whatever. On looking around Caroline's room, we found out that where she'd seen Mavis coming in and out, there had been an alteration and a corridor put in to split one bedroom into two, and right where she'd seen Mavis coming through was where a doorway used to be. So again, it's not as much the ghost is walking through the wall, but they're walking through the door, which was there in their day and still is in their day now. So that was a solving of that problem. The house went very quiet. We went back downstairs, we had a coffee, we sat and we chatted. I was talking to Caroline, and it seemed that all the energies within the building were concentrated upon her. And as is always said for teenagers who are going through puberty, they are far more attractive to the spirit world than any other age group. Whether it's due to the hormonal imbalances, etc. I'm not a doctor, I really don't know. Anyway, on speaking to her, she seemed to be very knowledgeable about the spirit world. And I asked her if she was frightened, and she said occasionally she did get a little bit scared. So I'd taken along with me a crystal pendant, and the crystal was one which hematite, which was there to dispel negative energy and to keep you free from spiritual attack. I gave her that, she was very grateful, and Brian thanked me too. And I advised her and Brian to let her go to a spiritualist centre, a spiritualist church, to go to an open circle, to sit and develop, because I believe that she had the ability within her to become a psychic medium. She was so open at that point to the spirit world, and it would have been a great shame for her to lose that. We said our goodbyes. We were packing everything away when we realised that a brand new CC television system that we had bought, so we could set a camera up and the people in the base could sit and watch what was going on, just stopped working altogether, which we put down to the spiritual energy in the house. We all parted company, and Brian was contacted a couple of weeks later by Dawn, and he said that the house had remained very calm ever since we had managed to move these spirit people over into the next realm. He said there was the occasional orb, but in general everything had settled down and had gone back to normal. They were a lovely family, and it was a wonderful experience to be involved in spirit rescue once again. We all agreed, and we began to call it the ghost house, because we'd never really had as much concrete evidence from one. People have said that York is the most haunted city in England. With our experience, we have believed that Bradford is very haunted also. Very haunted indeed. That's the end of this one, folks. Thank you again for listening. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, click like, ring the bell if you want any more updates. And I do believe that the next one is another private house that we did in Rastrick, again in West Yorkshire. Thank you all again for listening. Namaste.